You know, considering the many delays and speed bumps we've hit on the road to Grand Theft Auto 6, there of course has been a running joke that we are going to get AI Grand Theft Auto before we get Grand Theft Auto 6. And as it turns out, we actually did, and you can play it right now. Now, does it look as good as this? Well, of course it doesn't. In fact, it's actually kind of janky. But it's also kind of impressive and does serve as a benchmark moment for the future of gaming, especially when you tie it in with everything else that's happening in the AI landscape. All right, let's go check it out before our wanted meter hits 5 stars. So this is Mirage from Dynamics Lab, and it's kind of the latest in real-time AI world generation simulation, basically a wholly generated game. Now, just to address the elephant in the room, yes, it does look a little bit more like GTA 4 being run as an emulation on a PS2, maybe early PS3, certainly does not look anything close to the upcoming Rockstar title. And I'm going to be honest, it actually plays worse. That said, this is not a video like proclaiming this to be a contender for Game of the Year. Instead, what I want to focus in on is the technology driving it and where its current limitations are and where it's heading. Because even today, we can turn this into this, and we will go over that in just a little bit. So Mirage currently has 2 games that you can play, although something interesting about that we'll talk about later. But out of the box, we have Urban Chaos and Coastal Drift, obviously a GTA-styled game and a sort of Forza-styled racing game. Now, the way that this is working, and we have seen some other projects in this area as well, is that much like the AI Doom project we looked at last year, and more recently, Google's Genie 2, is that there is no game engine here, but rather this is all frame-by-frame video generation that you can control. And what's kind of interesting about this iteration of it is that you can actually text prompt within the real-time video generation as well. In terms of output, it is generating 16 frames per second, which I know is like a far cry from, the modern gaming standard of 60 FPS. But it does generate for much longer, actually minutes long, as opposed to previous versions of this that we've seen hovering around the 10 to 20 second mark. Now, in terms of actual playability, well, let's hop over to Not Liberty City and see what we got. So kicking off, I definitely have to note that there is a significant amount of lag when you're playing this. So it's not really, a game necessarily. In fact, actually, as I turn our character here, yeah, so there's a pretty good amount of delay between, actually issuing a command and your character actually doing it. For example, we can actually punch. So is that a guy over there? Let's see if we can punch that guy. I don't know if that guy will remain a guy. We'll see. Line up. Okay, yeah, well, we actually kind of punched him. Nope, he's not a guy anymore now. And that's something to note, is that, object permanence is a thing that has not quite been solved here. We will be talking about that in a little bit. For example, if we rotate our camera completely around, that is not the same cab. It actually looks like somebody came through and stripped it for parts while our back was turned there. Street is obviously not very populated as well. In fact, actually, if we issue the V command, I want to say, that's shoot. There it goes. So if we shoot, nothing, we have no one to shoot at, and obviously, police are not responding or anything of the sort. So as the generation goes on, things do get a little mushier. They note that if you rotate the camera around, you'll essentially get a refresh on those textures. That said, again, it is not the same environment anymore. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting that we'll take a look at here is that if you hit the enter key, you can have things appear. So let's see, police cars drive by. And though this does tend to take a minute before, again, just like our latency, before anything actually ends up happening. There they are. So yeah, we did get our police cars there. Oh, we actually got a police car straight up driving past us as well. So, well done there. Now, I will say that the Forza version of this does perform a little bit better, not in terms of actual game performance. It's still a little bit kind of on the laggy side, and that actually is super difficult when you're in a driving game. I'm not great at driving games to begin with, but this is kind of I'm not this bad either. But it does look really good, especially like the grass textures and the skybox and everything. All of this looks actually pretty remarkably good for something that is literally generating video on the fly, like frame by frame. I just want to assure everybody, I am a much better driver in real life than this. Oh, look, we're going off course again. Now we're in a desert of some kind. So look, while this is pretty interesting and cool, I do think, if you're looking at it from a game perspective, the game part of it is really, trying to keep control of your car. So depending on what you consider fun, that may or may not be fun. But again, that's not really what we're talking about. What's cool about this, again, is that returning back to our Liberty City sequence, we can change this from Grand Theft Auto 4 to 5. Once again, by issuing a text prompt. Let's go with a beach boardwalk in Los Angeles, hit confirm. And then when we return to our game, and again, I don't know if this is part of the lag of the model or just, essentially how the model works. But, it takes a minute before it gets there. Yeah, there we go. We're at a beach now. Now, granted, it kind of looks a little bit more like less Los Angeles and more like Atlantic City. But, I think that if we were to give it a little more time, eventually it would start to generate things like palm trees and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. And now the most interesting part about it is that you can generate your own games up as well. For example, just taking this Midjourney generated image up, definitely inspired by The Witcher, and then bringing that over and hitting the upload button here, we now have I wouldn't call it quite as good as The Witcher, but we do have a third-person dark fantasy environment, dark fantasy forest that we can kind of walk around and explore. By explore, I do mean it does get a little bit on the blocky side as we continue on, but I do have something interesting coming up in just a minute on that. So I will give you The Witcher 4, this is not, but I will say there are no horses stuck on top of buildings. So ultimately, is this like Stadia 2.0? I mean, clearly it is not. Obviously, as your game continues, there is a lot of decoherence, things do get blobby, and the controls are laggy. Also, there isn't much in the way of interaction, like there are no NPCs, there are no quests, there are no missions in this. But again, interestingly, this is where we start to see a lot of other branches from the generative AI tree start to come together. For example, taking some captures of our game footage and bringing them over to Luma Labs' new video restylizer. So we can take a scene like this, which I captured earlier in Mirage. Obviously, I was trying to hit that cab, by the way, and totally missed him. So we can take this and bring it over to Luma's modify feature and come out with, and end up with something like this. This was actually just done with a text to video prompt. So we do still have some problems in terms of like overall coherence, but in terms of like actual like fidelity of the output, I mean, clearly this looks a lot cleaner. But playing around with an image to video input reference by taking the first frame of our video, bringing it over to Midjourney, and doing a retexture on it, yeah, you can end up with some pretty cool results out of this. I ultimately did land on this one and testing out Mago's new video restylizer. I'll be taking a deeper dive on this in a video coming up soon. We ended up with this as an output, which at least stylistically does look very cool. You do still have some problems with morphing and, object permanence and things popping in, but, at the same time, it looks really good. It does look like a game. Now, it is very important to reiterate and note, none of that is actually happening in real time, though there is definitely a very powerful use case for utilizing AI as rendering passes, as showcased here by a friend of the channel, Martin Nebelong. So at the bottom of the screen, you see a sculpture that actually Martin put together in the PlayStation software Dreams. He's like kind of a wizard at this, that he is then controlling with the move controls. Above it, we see a rendering pass taken from that output. And yeah, I mean, that looks pretty crazy good. I think that this definitely showcases that we are not far off from you being able to take like, low poly previs characters and just go essentially like straight to print with them. As a final experiment, I thought it would be interesting to take our not Witcher footage. Once again, we ran this one through Luma Labs modify feature and ended up with this as an output. And I think this actually looks really good. There are some problems, like the walk cycle is a little bit on the janky side. I'm really impressed with the shadow though. That's the shadow details remains consistent. But overall, the background, the scene actually looks pretty good. So taking this and bringing this over to Topaz Labs' new Astra creative video upscaler. So running this under the settings of Creative Bold, we ended up with this, which, I mean, it's subtle, but it's definitely there. You can see it really pick up, I think, on the rocky path there. That's one place that we've definitely seen some improvement, and a lot in like the foliage over here and obviously the trees. So I think it's more of a background thing than anything. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. Now, as far as the current limitations on things like object permanence, well, I have seen at least one paper addressing that, namely Hunyan's Gamecraft, which again claims to have cracked that issue, although we have yet to see that actually out in the wild as of yet. But we also have seen a completely independent paper called VMem come out that also addresses the same issue. So generally, I found, at least, from covering this stuff for the last 2.5 years, when you see 2 or 3 papers pop up at the same time, all addressing the same issue, it usually means that some sort of breakthrough has been made on the research side, and they're all just sort of trying to figure out the best angle or like methodology to get there. Meanwhile, Google DeepMind has been suspiciously quiet on the Genie front, and like I am sure that they are cooking. I know that everyone is really busy with their VO3 like Yeti selfies and ASMR glass cutting videos, but what I'm keeping an eye on is the merging of Genie and VO3, because ultimately that is really the end game of AI video generators. It's not video generation, but world simulation. And that does bring us to the final part of the puzzle, the characters, the story, and, the adventure in these games. And that, at least in part, is something that we looked at, 2 videos ago with Runway's Game Worlds. Now, granted, Game Worlds is very much more text-based, kind of like, an updated version of Zork with pictures. That said, plug all of that into a voice generator, say like 11 Labs, and then have something like Game World essentially prompting a future version of everything that we've looked at before. I mean, yeah, that's something. Prompt for any game and start playing it. Now, just to get ahead of any like game devs are cooked type comments that we're bound to get, as always, I do not think that that will be the case for the big giant open world stuff like the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed type games. My hope is that this will allow studios to not grind employees into dust during crunch. And on the indie side, you can choose to use tools like this, or you can continue to hand build. But more importantly, on the indie side, look, there is no question that these models rely on trained data. So you can still create a game with a mechanic that does not exist in that training data. Essentially, you can make the game that AI can't. If anything, by the time that all of this starts rolling out, I think that aspect of it is going to make you stand out even more. On the flip side, if you're someone like me who just enjoys playing games, well, this gives us the opportunity to create any game that we want, the endless game that we've always wanted, or the super niche game that no one else would ever be interested in. That time is for sure coming, and probably quicker than we all think. Okay, I gotta go recharge my controller. As always, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.